Good evening. Okay. Thank you to the leadership of the Jewish Museum for your welcome and for your partnership this year. I'm a person who gets right down to it, so I would like to open this evening first by acknowledging yesterday. Yesterday, it was Yom Kippur, and there was an act of violence in the Jüdische Gemeinde Hanover. For the last 3 years, we at Hillel have been privileged to kick off the Festival of Resilience with a sort of private space, an hours-long Yom Kippur service in nearby Neukölln. Last night, I emerged from services which always feature prayer leaders and Torah chanters from our small group of Hillel survivors, friends, glowing, ecstatic. Yom Kippur, the sacred annual fast day on the Jewish calendar focused on self-reflection, atonement, forgiveness, and oneness with God, has always been one of my favorites. I felt finally like I had reclaimed this day, disconnected from the world, diminished to the bare essentials of my humanness. My communication with God was thriving. And then, as I do every year, after letting some hours of peace pass after those first bites of food, I turned on my phone to reveal this year's city under anti-Semitic attack, Hanover. A broken window in the women's section, a sanctuary of 200 people, in the middle of the Ne'ilah prayer at the end of the day. The most valuable time before the concluding sound of the shofar, when people are also physically weakest. After reading the initial news, I turned to Instagram. My fellow Jewish activists posting, "Bin ich müde." I'm so tired. Indeed, this is the 4th consecutive year in which terrorists have disrupted Yom Kippur and Sukkot in Jewish communities in Germany. Halle, Hamburg, Hagen, now Hanover. Naturally, you're tired. I'm tired. But, my friends, tired is their goal. Let it not be ours. Terrorists have been chipping away at our safety in Germany, using our holiest days to drive home the most fatigue. By now, many of us are likely thinking, if we can't be safe on our holy days, how can we be safe all year? It's too exhausting to make a life here. But this is what they want us to think, because it discourages us from more visibility, from more authenticity in how we live our lives. And it threatens also to drive a wedge between us and the Jewish community in particular. If we get too tired, we risk weighing one terrorist act in comparison with another. I don't have enough energy to care about everything, so let me pick. But if we find ourselves in a position rendering judgments on our fellow community members, this too achieves their goal, and we can't let it happen. All of this brings me to what we're doing here tonight. When we initially conceived of the Ceremony of Resilience in 2020, as has been said, we chose to invite speakers who had spent years of their lives cultivating resilience in response to hate. That first year, Farouk Arslan and Aneta Kahana joined us, sharing with us messages of inspiration and tools for building strength. This year, I find myself in a strange position, having myself run to safety out of the sanctuary of the Halle Synagogue in 2019. I can picture the alarm, the fear, the destroyed opportunity to beg God for God's last drops of mercy as the gates of heaven close on Yom Kippur Day. I can empathize, even, with the probable spiritual crisis about to befall members of this community. I extend heartfelt wishes of care and concern to the Gemeinderabbiner, Rabbi Shlomo Afanasyev, the Vorstand, and the community leadership. The task before you is too great to imagine. How will you care for this community? How will you bear the burden of carrying them to healing, having yourselves been there too. I can tell you, 3 years later, I have found my own answer here in resilience. Resilience teaches us the many ways human beings might move forward from moments of trauma and tragedy. We don't necessarily move forward, and we don't necessarily move on. That's a lot to ask of someone. But we do move. That's the difference between remembrance and resilience. Resilience is a tool for movement. It does not promise to heal all, but it can strengthen us. The beauty of resilience is how many forms it can take. We learn to integrate the past into our existence, to remain dynamic, to find hope, to be inspired, as we will tonight, by art, poetry, music, text, and testimony. We learn to live in the world. We learn to keep learning, to keep being curious about ourselves and our fellow humans. Tonight's ceremony, the keynote event of the Festival of Resilience, is about building ourselves up from our stories. It's about honoring Yana L. and Kevin S., who lost their lives to hateful violence, whose lives, it feels like often, were taken in exchange for ours. Tonight, we will encounter people who have endured violence, hatred, terror, migration, death of a loved one or of a stranger. We will be reminded of war as the senseless one ongoing in Ukraine, and of struggles for human rights like those led today by women in Iran. We will consider that as we paint pictures and frame narratives of these human moments, that there is always someone whose story isn't being told. We can only hope to give justice to those stories. The Talmud teaches, Lo tohu vra'a lashevet yitzara. God did not create the world to be a chaotic wasteland. God formed the world to be lived in. Throughout these presentations, you'll notice that we find a common challenge. Are we home? This place, Germany, is it our home? It's a particularly live question the day after Yom Kippur. Now that we've been granted life, how might we live? Each year, the Festival of Resilience marks my own re-encounter with this question. To me, home is a place I want to build. To the others you'll hear from today, home can mean something entirely different. I invite you, as you listen to our speakers and performers this evening, to grapple with this question. The speakers model resilience when the matter of home remains ambiguous, when roots have been uprooted. I hope that what we share tonight brings you inspiration and strength, and of course, resilience in your own journey. And with these blessings, final notes of thanks, I'd like to mention the members of the organizing team who have made this evening a reality. Talia Feldman, Naomi Henkel-Gumbel, Agata Malishevska, Rachel Spicker. Thank you. Thank you to Lena Maislis, Valentin Lutzet, Rabbi Jeremy Borowitz, to Elmira Tarivir-Deva, Daniela Oberstein, Oliver Hoffman, and the many people who have consulted with us and made this possible. And thank you, of course, to the magnificent speakers we will hear from tonight. Thank you, of course, to Hetty Berg, Shlomit Tripp, Signia Rosbach, Daniel Wildman, Stefan von Sol at the Jewish Museum. Thank you to our social media partner, the Yota Sudeh. Without all of these people, this wouldn't be happening. So thank you for being a great team. Thank you also to those who support the ceremony financially, in particular the Alfred Landecker Foundation, the Amadeo Antonio Foundation, Mobil Opferberatung, Ofek Beratung, and the Zentralrat der Juden in Deutschland. The festival would not be possible without you. This evening, we have a chance to enjoy music, poetry, art, and spoken word. Through these mediums, some of our speakers will share publicly, personally, for the first time. I kindly ask that you give the individuals on stage before you your full attention. Please silence your phones, as the process they have gone through to stand before you tonight commands the utmost respect. If at any point the content of the ceremony becomes too heavy, you are welcome, please, to step outside into the entrance hall you came through and take some time to breathe, please. Finally, I thank you all for your resilience through pandemic, through war. We're here. Thank you, because you are here.